Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chronicles of Hollywood History, Past, Present, and Future. Welcome. And here now, Corey Gomez.
Hello, everyone. It's Corey back with another interview. This time I'm talking to the lovely Sandra Dee Robinson. You may know her from work in soap operas such as The Bold and the Beautiful, Another World. I believe also Days of Our Lives. I know her from the amazing PM Entertainment action series, which I now just figured out how she knows Simon Rhee, LA Heat, and of course, what everyone wants to hear about, she played Sandy Carruthers season 5 when it moved to the USA Network on Renegade.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. What I got to ask, I guess, up front, what was that like? I mean, that was one of your first big jobs, and joining a series that was already established and moving to a new network, was there a lot of pressure on that, or?
Well, it was interesting. I had worked for that production company several times before, and then I worked on Renegade before, as guest star in things, and then I got a call into Stu Siegel's office, and he sat down. He goes, "Well," he gave me a script, and the character's name was Sandy, which was interesting. And I was like, "Yeah, I like the name," and I kind of snickered, and he said, "So, what do you think?" And I go, "Well, I'm here to audition for it." He goes, "No, what do you think?" And basically, it was offered to me.
Oh,
which
very
was
nice.
Awesome. Yeah, that was one of the few times in my, relatively short career. I mean, in some ways, right? Usually people, well, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't necessarily short, but I think of like A-list celebrities being offered things without having to audition. I had a few of those in my career that were either written for me or handed to me, and so that was the first one that ever happened, and I thought that was very cool. And I, left there kind of shocked and excited, and the guys are so easy to get along with. Branscombe and Lorenzo were so easy to get along with. It was kind of like one of those jobs that I would have done for free. They didn't pay me a lot, so it was close to free. To be honest, USA Network is not NBC, but it was fun. It was really fun, and the character I thought was very kind of campy and great in the beginning, and then they tried to make her more serious towards the end of the season, and I actually liked the more fun one, the fun part of it better. But and I think the fans did too. In the beginning, she was just this naive Midwestern girl that comes out and did the bounty hunter at home online course or something like that.
Yeah, that was genius. The videotape training course.
Yes, that was it. Yes.
And you thought that automatically got you a job.
Yes, and I came out all perky and everything, and I thought it was really quite funny, and I wanted to keep it that funny. So no, it was great. Every day we're shooting in usually the beaches or in the surrounding areas of San Diego. So yeah, I had my dog. I would move down to San Diego for a couple of months. It was not bad at all. So yeah.
I had to feel bad for you though, because Lorenzo had that awesome Softail Harley. Branscombe Richmond got to drive the Hummer, and you had this just broken down the
Honda.
It was terrible, and it would break down on the. Did it break down in real life, or was that?
No, it was a great little car, but it cracked me up because at one point when I first moved to New York, my manager actually had one of those cars, and he loaned it to me once to drive up to Vermont so I could get out of New York before I brought my own cars there. It was so funny. I actually, looked at it and went, I've driven this thing before. So it was part of her charm, that she came with that broken down thing. So I thought it was great. And my character drove it like it was a Maserati. So it was all right.
Were you a fan of the show before? Did you watch it before?
I think I was. Yeah, I think I was. I always liked watching Lorenzo. There was something always very interesting about the way he portrayed things, and then there was a dynamic between him and Branscombe that I thought was great. It's funny. There are very few shows that I can look back and say, yes, I really watched the entire series, but I watched quite a bit of Renegade before I started to work on it. So that was definitely it was fun. It was really fun. Yeah. Probably the most fun show that I worked on.
Yeah, my wife really liked watching him too. Over the course of the last 2 months, we just finished 2 days ago rewatching all 5 years worth. Was there any pressure on you or anything? And I don't mean like pressure acting, just because everybody there had already worked together for so long. Were you made to feel welcome right away?
Oh yeah, totally. I don't remember ever feeling nervous or uncomfortable. And, until I think there was one episode where they decided to put me undercover or something, and they put me in high heels and a dress and did my hair all up. And I was actually, I think my character was as uncomfortable as I just lived in that character, and I was very uncomfortable with that, which is funny because I came from a pageant and soap opera, background. That was one of my first. Renegade was, I think, one of the first things I did when I moved to LA. And so I'd already been working for 6 or 7 years in the industry and doing pageants for a couple of years. So the whole thing of wearing heels is something I was very used to. But in that character, it was very awkward.
That was the serial killer dating.
I think it was.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
And, I do have to say, because you were Miss Pennsylvania before.
I was. Right? Miss USA. Mm-hmm. Went to Miss USA. I was 17.
I'll tell you, and I hate when shows do flashback episodes, but it's a necessity of every show. When they did the Bounty Hunter of the Year, you came dressed for the event. I got to say, you look very, very beautiful in that episode.
Oh, thank you. I don't remember what they put me in, but thank you.
But you wanted Branscombe not to wear that Captain Crunch blue jacket. That was just that was my favorite of all his tuxedo coats. So he had to go down to just black to take you out at the end there.
Oh, that's funny.
I love those coats you wore.
Yeah, there was always a riff, or there was always like a joke that was throughout the show, and that's what I think made it so enjoyable and fun to watch and to be in. So, yeah.
Were you surprised when it didn't get picked up for another season by USA? I think all the fans sure were.
I was kind of surprised. I thought it was doing well, and but it had been kind of a long run, for Lorenzo anyway. For Lorenzo and Branscombe, it had been a long run as far as TV shows go. But USA tends to, I think, change I think they were at this point where they were just changing their MO. They were changing the things that they were doing, and it just got caught up in that. Maybe, sometimes, who knows, looking back, I may find that there were executives that were hired and fired, and there was a change of the guard, so to speak, and that's when things tend to shift and change. So it might have been that.
When you did, because before that you did a couple of episodes of Silk Stockings, was that on?
I did.
Was that a USA show at the time as well, or is that still syndicated?
I think it was a USA show.
With Rob Estes.
Uh-huh.
From the great Melrose Place. Yes, I used to watch Silk Stockings as well.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, yes.
Melrose Place, one of my favorite shows of all time.
Yeah. Now, that was way back in the beginning of my career, so I can barely remember what that was like. But, yeah, then I was nervous and scared because I think I hadn't done very much at all when I did those.
When you did an episode of Baywatch Nights.
Uh-huh.
Did you do the first season where it was a normal detective one, or the second season where it was so stupid it was amazing, where they were fighting, like, witches and vampires and stuff like that?
I have to tell you, this is going to maybe make some people mad. It was very forgettable. I have no idea. I really don't know. I tend to think it had already been established it was probably the second season.
I didn't watch the normal show. The appeal of girls in bathing suits just wasn't enough to get me excited. I went on dates with the real girls, but when they changed it to where David Hasselhoff and the Beach Girls were fighting vampires and witches, I did tune into a few of those. I won't lie. That was a pretty interesting
just so
twist.
Bizarre.
Yeah, I'm not, because apparently, that only happens at night. During the day, the beaches are safe of supernatural elements, but...
oh, good grief. Yeah, I truly don't remember anything from that one.
Was, and then you did a lot of soap opera work.
Yeah, that was my main gig, so to speak. So, yeah, thousands and thousands and thousands of shows. As I realized this morning when somebody threw out a number, and I was like, yeah, I probably did do that many. Yeah, so I did 6 different shows and ended with the new online medium with a show called The Bay, which is Emmy Award-winning daytime soap opera actor-filled drama. So, I really I quit doing that when I moved to Austin. I had started my business in California, and then we moved to Austin. I didn't really have the desire to continue to do a lot of the acting anymore. I'm not going to say never. I have an agent here, and it's been very sweet. I still get some stuff sent to me asking me to either read for them or to accept a role, and I haven't really seen anything that, really piques my interest. So, but I loved the work when I did it, and I still have the ultimate respect for the people that do it and are very good at it. I just don't think, I think my time in that industry as an actor was just perfect. I think it was exactly what I was supposed to do. And it gave me enough, and I really enjoyed it. But I did get to the point where I had crazy fans following me, and that was a good thing. I'm not saying that was a bad thing. They were very adoring and wonderful, and I had a fan club and all of that. And it just really, and I still, even this week, today, one of the errands I did was sending out a stack of autographed photos that were requested. So I'm very appreciative of all of that, but for the good about 50% of my time when I was working as an actor, I didn't think that I was worthy. So the journey for me as an actor was one really of self-development, which is why you asked, am I a motivational speaker? Now I'm like, yes, I'm a speaker. Motivational, I guess, I could fall into, but I think that part of my journey was where the discord came in, where I had people that were adoring me and I couldn't walk out and talk to a stranger because I was afraid they'd find out that I wasn't really anything special. And what I like people to understand is that everybody is special. We're all designed perfectly. And it took me a long time. It was a difficult journey to be able to rectify that, because obviously that's not going to work so well. If I got interviews, I didn't know what to say. If I went to a charity event and they handed me a microphone and told me to just be myself, I would fall to pieces. So that's a pretty big discord there. So obviously finding my way through that helped me to eventually want to do that for other people and kind of lead them down the journey so it didn't have to be quite as painful as mine. And so that's what kind of brought me out of the acting. But I still look back at it fondly. And, I have 6 soap operas, and I think all told it was something like 13 or 14 years in soap operas alone, playing characters. So, yeah.
And those soap opera fans are crazy.
Yeah, I did use the word crazy, but I meant it in a good way.
Oh, I can see that. I've, because every time they do like a auto show where I live, they always manage to bring 2 or 3 soap opera people there to sign the free autographs.
Sure.
And they have, oh my God, they have lines for 3 days straight. And those ladies there they'll murder you if they think you're so much as getting near them. So I stay away from these soap opera fans.
Yes, they're very, very loyal. And, yeah. I mean, that's what I was dealing with. And I felt so bad because there were times, if there were a lot of them outside the studio waiting, there were times that I would be so uncomfortable with going out and meeting them that I would leave the back way. And I realized that that's not the right thing. It wasn't so much that I was trying to be snotty. I just didn't know how to rectify what was going on with me. It wasn't until I actually started to kind of delve into why I had issues taking up a microphone and trying to be myself. I thought it was a performance problem. And in the end, it was, tons. I mean, many years later, tens of thousands of hours of reading in conferences and coaching not me coaching at that point, being coached and taught and mentored, and so many other different modalities that I was curious about, went off and got master certified in, and a lot of self-development time spent. And obviously that's the field that I'm in, is self-development primarily. So it was very interesting. And I tell people even now, if I help people with their speaking or getting in front of a camera or video or anything that I call a high-risk presentation for them, the number one thing that I do is I work on performance last. So I tell you how to stand, what to say, and how to look into the camera last. I help you find what your actual voice is and your personal brand of charisma, what lights you up, what do people love about you, what is it that people are attracted to you for, and you lead with that. Then we talk about how to stand and how to light yourself and, those things. Because it really is secondary. If you have all the good lighting in the world, you've seen local commercials where they're lit, they have a professional shooting them, and you just kind of go, oh, that's painful to watch. And it's because they're not comfortable in their own skin. So getting comfortable with yourself is the first number one thing. If you want to be an influencer, with your business or with your charity, or be able to put people into action of any kind. I primarily work with leaders that are wanting to do those things. They want to get people enrolled and lead them to either a better life, to purchase a product, to donate to a charity. And so they have to be comfortable in their own skin, because if they're not, then nobody else is going to be. And you can't move people unless you're in that spot yourself.
I always have to wear like the mirrored glasses when I'm like at a camera, because I find myself just staring at myself. It's a really strange habit. So anytime, if you ever see it, if it happen to pop up in any type of video on my site, I'm usually wearing sunglasses for the fact that if I'm not, I just keep looking at myself, which I've never figured out why.
The trick is to look through that. When you say looking at yourself, are you looking at the lens?
I don't know.
Can you see yourself?
I just like to look at myself. I think it's a borderline narcissism there. I can't really explain it. I'm fascinated with looking at me on some occasion.
That's funny. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of times I have people that react very negatively in various ways to looking at a camera, being on camera, being up on stage. And so usually it's a mindset shift,
No, I'm totally a spotlight hog. I do have a question when I said spotlight hog. You did a TV movie called Falcon Down.
Yes.
William Shatner is normal guy, spotlight guy, or just knows how to give himself a good public image there?
I think he's a normal guy. He's a horse guy, so I like him. He was very nice. He was very friendly, very personal. I was at that point still very shy. So now I think I would enjoy walking up and actually engaging him more in conversation. I didn't do it very much then. I was still not really able to feel strong enough in my own presence to do that. I kind of hung to myself. So that was, early on as well. But no, he was great. He was very professional and kind of funny. And I think the way he is when you see him on the reality show, I think that's who he is. Yeah.
I mean, you even got to, did you do anything alongside Charlie Sheen? I know you popped up in 2.5 Men.
I did. Yeah, I was actually there towards the end of the series. So when he was, I think there was only a couple of episodes left, and then everything blew up with him. But, people ask me that too. Was he, out of control? And his argument back was always, I've never been late. I've never not shown up for work. I've never not done my lines. And I can say that was true. When I worked with him, he was on time, knew his lines. He was fine. There was nothing that I could say was really stood out as being unprofessional on set.
Hey, he was an award-winning actor. I mean, there's, that should speak for itself. I'm a fan. I always have been a fan of his.
Yeah.
And, I always kind of thought some of that stuff he did might have been a little bit more for, publicity. Yeah, kind of, fake persona. Howard Stern ain't really Howard Stern, kind of, so to speak. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know actors that have done that or supposedly done that, and I don't know if it was actually the intention to come across as crazy, or if they went crazy and then tried to sell it as something that was intentional afterwards. I don't know. Not really sure. But I think it's better if you are going to portray something to maybe not portray yourself as crazy. That's just my personal opinion, though.
You go from crazy, and then you even worked with the quintessential bully of the 80s in Man in the Silo with William Zabka.
Oh, yeah. Well, Billy's great. I've known Billy, he's been to our house many times. We have known him on a different level. And no, I like him a lot. I respect him a lot. I think he's a great guy.
My website about a year ago voted him greatest bully in history because not only did he beat up guys, but in the movie Just One of the Guys, he had no problem throwing a girl in a bush too. So he didn't discriminate. So that's why he is the all-time greatest bully in film history, according to the movie Graveyard.
He is kind of easy to hate in some of those films, yeah.
I've always liked him. I think Cobra Kai, he's doing an awesome job. He made some direct-to-video action movies that I was a very big fan of as well. I don't necessarily know if he was a fan of them, but he's got a lot of fans over here, so it's very cool that you know him. Let him know he's a bully of the century at the movie Graveyard.
That's great. I bet he'd appreciate that.
He might. I've tweeted him, but I think with those 79,000 people that however many follow him, I don't think he gets to see just a random tweet here and there. So
wow,
he probably doesn't
funny.
have any idea, and I don't actually have an award to give him. So now you got kind of now. Do you act anymore, or did you kind of get completely out of that?
I would say pretty much completely out. As I was saying, I have an agent. I live in Austin, Texas now. So, yeah, there's an agent here, and I still talk to my manager, who actually my manager closed the doors on his business last year. So, but if I ever needed somebody to represent me in LA, I'm sure I could, he would set me up and I would be fine. I actually know who he would set me up with as well. But I think at this point, psychologically, I am much happier doing what I'm doing and not doing the acting. At the time, it was what I needed, and then I sort of it's kind of funny to say that I don't want to be anybody else anymore. I'm actually pretty good being me, and I prefer that. So you have to give yourself up. Really, when you're working, you give all of yourself up to become another character. That's part of the art, and that's part of the amazing thing about it. It just didn't fuel me spiritually anymore. I wanted to make a bigger impact. And so doing the work that I'm doing, working with leaders, and primarily I work with female leaders, there is sort of a ripple effect that if they get healthy in their communication and their relationship building and everything that they're doing, then the people that are looking up to them also get the same download. So to me, it's more impactful than the work that I was doing as an actor. It feels better for me personally.
How did you, and now we touched now that you're a speaker, a coach. How did you get into all that?
My journey actually led me there. A part of my searching was, as I mentioned, hiring performance coaches, which really wasn't the issue. The issue was much deeper. It was in my mindset. It was in my belief in myself, or lack thereof. But until I could unpack all of that stuff, I just kept taking performance the way to type TV hosting. And so I came in because I would always fall apart when a director would say, just read this script and be yourself. If I was doing some sort of a thing that required me to host as myself. And so I went with her. And at that point, when I started working with her, I kind of worked through a bit of my journey, and I kind of knew that I was good at certain things. My self-esteem meter, and I got a little stronger, and my personal presence, I think, was starting to become a little bit better, and I was able to start booking things as myself, not having to hide behind characters. And then when I was working with her, she said, "You know what? I've got some of these new people coming in, and I just want you to teach them. Will you just come in and teach them and be one of my teachers here at the school?" I'm like, "I don't teach," which is so funny because that's exactly what I do, And I just wouldn't have believed that I would do that. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll do that. And I was terrified, but I really enjoyed it. In fact, I enjoyed it so much that she started to pop in on my sessions with people because I was making these leaps and bounds with these people, and she couldn't understand how I was doing it because I wasn't just teaching what she taught. I would sit with them and find out what lit them up, and then I would bring that out. And it was a little different than how she'd been teaching me, but in essence, it's kind of what I knew was going to work. And then she closed her doors on that school, and I went off in search of something to do, and I ran into a business coach that I did not hire, but this woman threw out at me, "You should do what you're doing with TV hosts, but do it with women that are doing video for their business." And that's how I started Charisma on Camera. And that was 2010. And so I continued to work with not just women, but entrepreneurs and help them with video. And then the people I was working with on camera were becoming so good, they were getting asked to speak. And I am master certified in stage presentation as well. So I thought, well, I can help you with that, you know. So I started working with people that were doing keynotes. And I saw that's one of my favorite things to do, is to have somebody, especially if they're not particularly seasoned as a speaker, and allow them to be able to really conquer the stage and deliver something that knocks it out of the park. So I love doing things like this season. Unfortunately, South by Southwest here was canceled, but I had worked with a client for a while, and she was not a speaker. She was a corporate girl through and through, but she had a topic that she really wanted to speak on, and they actually had her opening South by Southwest. So that's a pretty big jump, you know, and I get real excited when people are able to do that and really break through what their self-perceived boundaries of what they can do. It's fun.
Now you offer things on the equestrian side. How does that play? Mm-hmm. How does that play into everything?
I know it seems like a disconnect, doesn't it? Well, until recently I realized actually it's very similar, because if there's one thing in the world that I would say that I work to eliminate with people, the problem that I solve, I guess you could say, in one word, would be self-doubt. Because it's the one thing that humans deal with no matter what level of success, age, where they are in life, how much money they have, how educated they are. There is always going to be somewhere that there's a self-doubt limiter. And that's what I work on. So if somebody is coming to me and they're fascinated with the horses, usually then I target their female leaders, but I've worked with groups and mixed genders, and I've worked with men in that as well. But generally speaking, I am working with women that are perceived as kind of having it all together. They're running a big show, all seems to be going well, but they are like the duck that is calm on top, and underneath they're paddling like crazy. And somewhere in there, they're feeling it. It's either in their personal relationships or in their health, or they're just exhausted, or there's something that they want to accomplish in their life or want to do or experience, and they don't have the bandwidth to do so. So a lot of that has to do with boundaries, with building the right healthy connections, and being able to say no and know who to align with. And all of those things, believe it or not, show up when I put them in a round pen with a horse and nothing else, no bridle, no halter. We don't ride. It's just all on the ground. And I say, go build a relationship with this sentient being that is much bigger than you, a little intimidating, and doesn't speak your language. That's pretty challenging, you know? And the way that unfolds usually is indicative of an issue that's coming up for them. And so the horse does a lot of the work with that. I just sit back and I facilitate. I've been watching animal behavior since I was 3. My brother's a wildlife biologist. My mother ignored me growing up. And so being alone, I went out and just started.
It's okay.
What would you say?
So did mine. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what it does for us, and me, maybe you as well, is it built my imagination, because I had to entertain myself, and then I also found my solace in nature and in animals. So I was constantly wondering, you know, how does this work? Why does bird do that? How do these animals communicate? How can I communicate with them? And that was the start of me being fascinated with animal psychology, biopsychology, and it worked perfectly when I moved into working with actors, because that's studying body language and psychology and the levels of emotion. And so the stuff that I'm doing now, the horses actually fit in really well. And I can see huge, deep transformations in people in a very short period of time, much more so than when I, as a human, am telling them that their boundaries don't work so well. A horse will tell them their boundaries don't work so well, and they get it, and they can change it within 5 minutes sometimes.
Have you written any books on the subject?
Pretty amazing. I am actually right now writing a book. I do have a book that's out on powerful presence on camera and off. It was my first book. That's my first solo book. I have other compilation books that I've been participants in, but my second book of my own is the one that I'm putting together right now, and it is about that. It is about the herd wisdom for human life and what we can learn from the principles of nature and how we can empower ourselves, you know, in a very natural and simplistic way. We're already designed to be successful in what it is that we want to do. We really do get in our own way a lot. And it's interesting because animals don't do that. Animals don't ask for things they don't need. Well, except for dogs. Sometimes they don't need a belly scratch, but they always ask for it anyway.
They always ask for everything.
Yeah, but they also don't know, especially when you're working with horses, it's very evident. There's no falseness there. They don't live in story like we do. It becomes really clear when you're working with a horse and trying to build that relationship, you have to let go of all of that. And most of what we hold on to isn't true anyway. So we have to let go of all that and meet them in the present moment. And right now, honestly, it's one of the hardest things for us to do is to be present, because we have notifications on our phone going off all the time. We're constantly in touch with everything that we need to and don't need to be in touch with. So it's very hard for us as humans to be present, yet that's where we are healthiest, in our minds, in our spirit, is to be present.
Has COVID impacted any of the coaching or anything for you?
Oh, March was awful. Yeah, because that's when all the conferences were canceled. So I get a lot of my speaking engagements are actually how I get a lot of my clients and get people enrolled in what I'm doing. And so I wasn't speaking because all the conferences were canceled. My clients weren't speaking, so that was, so March was a real wake-up call. And that word pivot will be the most loved and hated word for the people that are in my industry. We sort of joked about that because I taught for a couple of hours today at a friend's mastermind. And, I said that most loved and hated word and everybody cracked up. But it is. I mean, you have to think, okay, what can I do now? So I actually did take a few months kind of on a hiatus, partly to breathe and allow myself to be present and figure out what it is that I wanted to do moving forward that would serve the most people. And I don't think the online stuff is going to go away. I think it's always going to be there. And I have never had a real online course. I always just kind of felt like it wasn't my thing. And here I am now, I'm building it. So I have several master classes that I'm going to be doing throughout the rest of the year. And they're going to be free. They're going to be online. And they alone will be helpful. But if somebody wants to go further, then I have an online course that is the at-home version, kind of like the Sandy Carruthers and Renegade, the at-home version of doing that. But then I also will be in January, I'm launching a I guess you would call it now like a mastermind, with a small group of people and working through at 3-month increments, different programs to really empower them to help find their voice and get out, be brave and overcome any self-doubt and kind of stretch their limbs a little bit and get out of their comfort zone to really accomplish what it is they want to accomplish. So whether that's starting a charity, getting into media, doing a TV show, getting into speaking, whatever it is for them, that's kind of what it is. It's kind of blowing those boundaries for them wide open. So that starts in January. But the at-home course has been really challenging for me to put together because it's my first one. It's kind of like my first book was like pulling teeth, Mm-hmm. So the second one, I think I'm feeling a little bit better about. But yeah, it's definitely caused some changes in my industry and everybody's industry.
Where's the website that people can find all this at?
Oh, it's easy. It's my name.com. Sandra Dee, spelled out D-E-E, SandraDeeRobinson.com.
And I will have a link in the description.
Thanks.
I mean,
there's usually a freebie up there too. If you go on there, there's usually a pop-up that gives some sort of a freebie. I think now it's Zoom charisma because I've been asked to speak so often since COVID took us all over. When everybody started using Zoom, they're like, what do we do to look better on Zoom? So, yeah I've had spending a lot of time talking about that.
I had 2 Zoom meetings today. If I didn't have to leave my house right now, I wouldn't, but unfortunately I have to every day. But I'll tell you, the only thing COVID has been decent for is I'm able to, much like you, talk to more people now because a lot of people are at home.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and you don't have to drive. So, I've really been able to connect with a lot of people that I would have previously had to set up an appointment and drive to. So, like you said, it's a lot easier because people are home and just turn on the camera.
Well, and I am willing to bet you weren't expecting this week an email from a guy wanting to talk to you about the show Renegade.
Well, it doesn't surprise me because I would say, especially this week, I mean, it's funny how, I don't know, I think there are certain websites that must just like pump out actors' addresses or email addresses or something, because several times a year I'll get an influx of requests for autographs, and some of them will be very specific to a particular show. And this week I had 2 or 3 people that talked about Renegade, so I have a feeling that something was circulating. I don't know exactly what it was.
Yeah,
something was the universe.
They've been reading my articles that I've been sharing. That's what
it
is. That had to have been it.
We'll say that's what it was.
I'm confident because I share all that stuff on the, I don't know how many thousands of fan groups that show has out on Facebook. It's ridiculous. A lot of them are overseas too. So yeah. No, I found you the old-fashioned way, an IMDb account, and then I found your website and just filled out the contact thing and got lucky.
Yeah, or you could Google me. Like it was funny. Somebody asked me this morning on the call where I was teaching. They said, I have to ask before we get started because I Googled you and you were right there on the first page, and then the second page, and then the third page. I don't know how many pages she went through. That was me. And she goes, "What is your secret to that?" And I was like, "I didn't know what to say." Like, I'm old. I've been around a while. I don't know.
Soap opera. You're famous. All the soap operas.
Yeah, it does help, and just the shows that I've been on, and it's hard for me to have to tell her how to duplicate it because, she's like, do you hire PR people? I'm like, well, I will on occasion, and I actually refer 3 different groups, 3 different companies that I work with or whatever to my clients that need PR, but I don't use them on a regular basis anymore. It's just kind of funny, like, how did you do that? Like, tenacity? Just like still around, just still here.
Once in a while, I'll get a company that'll ask, how do you have 60-something thousand likes on Facebook? Can you help us get that? And it was like, I don't know. I don't know how I did it. I just worked at it, I guess. I didn't do a lot of advertising. Just a fan.
Consistent, though, right?
Very
I think consistency
Very consistent.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing, and you probably interact very well with people. So if you interact, yes. So
now the one thing that you don't list on your resume, and I think I've just now solved why you come up in Google. To my knowledge, you have got to be the only person in history that has successfully completed the Bobby Six Killer at-home bounty hunter training course.
I think I am. Yes.
So there we go. You should put that on your. Nobody would get that. Well, yeah, I know people would get that joke. I'm sure.
Somebody might. They might. Yeah, they might.
I have to tell you one of the funny things, and I don't remember who I said this to when I was interviewing him before you came on the show, or maybe it was one you guest started on. He used to have a big cardboard cutout of himself in that office you guys were at, and boy, when that cardboard cutout got shot, I was sad because I always said if I ever interviewed him and he had it, I was going to offer to buy it from him because it looked cool in my basement.
Oh, how funny. I bet they had more than one.
Probably.
Because if they were going to shoot it up, props would have more than one, I would think. I know we were a low budget, but I think they would have at least done that.
Well, I think you guys had a pretty decent budget on it. It seemed like you did anyway. It never came off cheap.
No, it didn't. They did a great job. If you look at something now, like, my husband still is a stunt coordinator, stuntman, and so he'll be working on a TV show or a TV movie, and he tells her what the budget is. It just blows my mind how much they can spend on TV shows. It just absolutely floors me. And they look amazing. A lot of these shows look absolutely amazing. Oh. And they've got incredible budgets. I think Renegade did a great job with what they had, and the fans loved it. So that was the most important thing.
It worked, and that's...
yeah.
And you've done everything, beauty pageants, soap operas, Renegade. Now you have your own company there. It's really been an honor to talk to you. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did as well.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's always good to go back and visit the Renegade days, That was fun. That was really fun. In fact, I was just talking to somebody because my husband and I've always been a car girl. And when I came down for Renegade on the first day, I drove my truck down there, and I was into vintage Broncos. So I show up in this convertible, I think it was 1976 at that point. I had several, I think that was a 76. And so I show up, I drove down from LA in this with my dog in the passenger seat. They look at me like I had three heads. They're like, you drove that down from LA? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to drive it back at the end of the week, And then eventually, like I said, I kind of moved down there into a hotel for most of the months that I was there. I didn't do a lot of driving back and forth, but I was talking about that to somebody because the new Broncos are coming out that are modeled after the old Broncos. And I was like, yeah, I drove mine, my vintage truck every single day, and I didn't think twice about driving it for hours down the coast. It was fun, but I remember the crew guys were like, you drove that? I was like, yeah. And then I was with Sandy Carruthers, get in that little Honda, that little piece of crap car.
Well, my wife loves those new Broncos. She wants to get one.
Yeah, we put our money down on one. We can always back out of it. We'll see. I don't know.
Are you getting a white one?
I actually would like to have a white one, but we already have a white truck, so I don't know. Why. Why'd you think I'd get a white one?
I mean, genius marketing or either horrible marketing. You could say OJ approved if it was a white one, but that would either get you a lot of sales or none. So
too controversial. Controversial.
I didn't pitch that to the Bronco company. I don't know
if that would go over. Yeah.
The only reason I mention him sometimes is Lorenzo actually did a film with him, so it gets asked about quite often.
Oh, wow.
Actually, he did two films with him.
Yeah, that was a weird thing. He was my neighbor for a while when I lived in Brentwood.
Really?
Yeah. I remember having to take a shortcut, there was something going on San Vicente Boulevard, and we had to cut up through his neighborhood, and traffic was backed up because he was out signing autographs. This is during the whole trial. I didn't understand that. I didn't get it.
But I want to once again thank you. I'll put the link to the website here. This was a lot of fun. I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, now I got to get back to work, but it's been a fun break.
Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. You have been listening to the Chronicles of Hollywood History. Thank you from Gomez Richmond Productions.